There is a podcast that lies between the imagination of two simple-minded earthlings. Travel with these two longtime friends, Jimbo and 80s E, as they attempt to explore the fifth dimension. Follow along with them as they take the key and unlock the door to the vast space between shadow and substance. This podcast is one of trivia, of insight, and of sounds and ideas from one of the greatest television shows ever produced. You are embarking on a timeless journey. There is your signpost up ahead. You are entering the tragedy of cinema's Twilight Zone.
Time, the mid-20s. Place, the Midwest. The southernmost section of the Midwest. We were just witnessing a funeral. A funeral that didn't come off exactly as planned, due to a slight fallout from the Twilight Zone.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Tragedy of Cinema podcast, the Twilight Zone series. I'm your host, Jimbo.
And I'm your co-host, 80Z.
Eric, here we are trudging right along through season 3 of the Twilight Zone. We finally made it to episode 23.
That's right. How was your Easter holiday?
Great. Yours?
It was really good.
Yeah.
Interesting enough how apropos this episode is. On a certain level, a man rises again from the grave in the Twilight Zone, of course. But the title of the episode is called "The Last Rites of Jeff Myrtlebank," and I'll just go ahead and launch right in, if we will. The Twilight Zone season number 3, episode number 23. This one comes in with an IMDb rating of 7.1. And this episode was directed by Montgomery Pittman, and it has featured music by Tommy Morgan. And this episode's original air date came in on February the 23rd, 1962, and we all know what time it is. And this particular point in the episode, that's right, it's our favorite segment in the episode, the segment that we like to call On This Day in History. Sounds like we got some visitors outside. So, on this day in history, our episode, we start with February the 23rd, 1939. On this day, February 23rd, 1939 was the 11th Academy Awards. And the winner for the motion picture of the year was called You Can't Take It With You. Ever heard of that one? I never
heard of it. I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yeah, I haven't either. On this day, February 23rd, 1940, you've most likely heard of this. As a matter of fact, I'm sure you have. Walt Disney's animated movie Pinocchio is released. And I did a little digging and adjusted for inflation. The gross domestic comes in at $616 million if we adjust that in today's dollars. So it was a big deal.
That's just for the theater money?
I'm not exactly sure about...
Because with streaming and DVD
I believe
sales,
that
VHS,
is just theater box office sales when we adjust that number. Yeah, it comes in at $616 million. So I'll go on and tell you that IMDb rated it at number 4 for all-time Disney movies. So I did some research. Yeah, so it came in at number 4. I thought it would have been higher.
Is that just Disney movies, like animation?
Yes. Just
okay, I was going to say, because Marvel alone probably just blew that out of the water.
That was number 1. Endgame was number 1. I do remember that. Yes, this was for Disney movies only. Because of all the Snow White controversy, I kind of went down a rabbit hole and started, let's see.
Did you watch that?
I haven't watched the
I
new
watched
one. We'll save that for another podcast.
It's not that bad.
It's not that bad. It's taken a
beating, though.
Taking a real bad beating. So with all that in mind, I kind of got interested because, the original Snow White was like a theatrical masterpiece. If you know any of the history, like they created a whole new division in the Academy Awards for animation because, it was revolutionary, right? The original Snow White, the 1939? So anyway, I believe it was 1939. So Pinocchio followed it. It did really, really well in 1940. I'm kind of getting off track here, but that was February the 23rd, 1940, the top grossing Disney movie for that year. I want to say it was one of the top grossing movies for that particular year, and that would be Pinocchio. All right, moving on. February 23rd, 1956, we have the 13th Golden Globe Awards, and the winner of the Best Picture for that particular award show was a movie that we've already covered on the podcast, and that movie is called East of Eden, a James Dean film.
Dean.
Right, 1956. February 23rd, 1974. One of your favorite actresses, Terry Garr, she appeared on the Bob Newhart Show. Not the second version of the Bob Newhart Show, but the original. A lot of people don't, they don't know about the 70s Bob Newhart Show where he was like a psychiatrist, right? I think he
Something like that.
He played a psychiatrist. And so Terry Garr, she appears on that. And why that's significant is... Well, I just have the title of the episode that she appeared in was Confessions of an Orthodontist. So I must have went really far down the rabbit hole for that.
You're going way down the rabbit holes here,
trivia.
Alice.
February 23rd, 1997. This is more commonly known. The NBC, the television network, they show the movie Schindler's List completely uncensored and without commercial interruptions. So 65 million people tuned in to watch that on NBC when it ran.
Have you watched Schindler's List, Eric?
Oh, many times. It's a great movie. I mean,
hard to watch.
Yeah, it is, but it's a fantastic movie. All right, finally, February 23rd, 2003, we have the British Academy Film Awards, or the BAFTAs, and the movie The Pianist won the best film, and it's notorious director Roman Polanski.
Have you seen it?
I have only seen portions of that movie. I have not, but as bad as Roman Polanski is in real life, he certainly is great at his job. Right?
Yeah.
So, have you?
I've seen it.
Seen it? Good movie. You haven't reviewed it on the podcast.
No, probably won't. There is some scenes in it that make you go,
Okay,
that's all. I'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that.
Might not be safe for children to watch, if I remember correctly.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to birthdays. I got a couple of birthdays here. Some famous musician and composer, February 23rd, 1685. We're going way back for this. One George Frederick Handel, right? German-British composer.
The Messiah?
Handel's Messiah, yes. Yep. That's the same Handel. So a classical music composer, 1685. And then a director, February 23rd, 1889, marks the birth of one Victor Fleming, the film director. He was noted for The Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind. He was born in Pasadena, California in 1889 on February 23rd.
I believe it was The Wizard of Oz. It had like 4 different directors going on all at one time.
Right.
They kept passing it off.
He's the one that it landed with, right?
I don't remember. I know, I think, was it George Cukor was one of them?
Okay.
And then one of them left to go do Gone with the Wind, but I can't remember which one. That's year 1 of this podcast. We're on year 6 now, so that's a long time ago.
Yeah, so Victor Fleming, 2 pretty important pieces of film under his belt, The Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind. Those are 2 epic movies. So
you like Gone with the Wind?
Yeah,
I really like it.
It was good. It's long, but it was good. All right, so back to our episode at hand here. We already talked about the original air date, so let's talk about production costs. This particular episode came in with a production cost of $50,128.23. So we're coming in around our benchmark is around $50,000 for the era. So this one hits the bullseye really for money. Dates of rehearsal, there were 2 of them, July 14th and July 17th of 1961. And then the dates of filming, there were 3, July 18, 19, and 20th of 1961. And I'm going to let Jimbo tell you about this cast. So take it away.
Well, Eric, once again, we see the great James Best playing the title character, Jeff Myrtlebank. And Eric, we all know what he's famous for. Roscoe P. Coltrane from the Dukes of Hazzard.
That's right. That's what he'll always be known for. Well, he was on the Andy Griffith Show too. He's always going to be.
He's always going to be Roscoe to me. And what was his dog's name?
Flash.
Yeah. Then you had Sherry Jackson. She was Comfort Gatewood. She was in the original Star Trek for one episode. A lot of these actors, they've been in a ton of TV shows. Some of them I didn't even name because we'd be here all day. But you had Edgar Buchanan as Doc Bolton. He was in the movie Shane, but he was also probably well known as Uncle Joe from Petticoat Junction. Did you ever watch Petticoat Junction there?
I did. Not by my own choice, but my father's choice. Sure.
Then you had Lance Fuller as Orgram Gelwood. Orgram.
That's a hard name. Orgram.
Don't want to misspell that bad boy.
No, it's spelled like 3 different ways, too, when you do research on it.
Right. You had Dub Taylor as Mr. Peters, Ralph Moody as Pa Myrtlebank, Azelle Poule, P-O-U-L-E, as Ma Myrtlebank, Helen Wallace as Ma Gatewood, Vicky Barnes.
Your mom's
not my mom, but yes, my mom was Liz Myrtlebank. John Lormer as Strauss. He was in. Do you remember the old like creep show movies?
Yes,
where it'd be like 3 different ones. He was in one of those.
Yep.
One of those episodes.
Okay.
James Houghton as Jerry. He was a writer for The Young and the Restless as well as Knots Landing. So this guy has some writing credits to his account. And then you had William Fawcett as Reverend Siddons. And of course, you have Rod Serling with his great monologue opening by that car.
Yes.
That was pretty cool.
We'll get to that. Yeah.
I know Eric probably told you what make and model that car was too.
Yes.
Yes, he does. And that is your cast for.
All right. Thank you, Jimbo. Well, let's go with the little plot for this episode. Young Southerner Jeffrey Myrtlebank wakes up during his own funeral and wants to know what's going on. The townsfolk are glad to see him back, but they begin to wonder if he's a man or something else. All right,
Zombie.
So yeah, because, I was going to talk about that. Zombie lore, was not in full effect until Night of the Living Dead, which I think was recorded at the end of the decade, somewhere toward the 68, right? 67, 68, which we've covered that on the podcast as well. So this might be your OG zombie, but is he a zombie or is he a human? Well, maybe we'll find out. Maybe we won't. So Act 1, so we open the episode really with Jeff. Well, it's really a funeral service. And we meet our main character.
She said it still cough sometime before.
Well, way to go there, Eric.
Well, sorry about that. We want to pull up our episode here so we can follow along with what's happening.
Well, I will throw this out there while you're fidaddling over there.
I think I got it squared out.
If I'm in the Twilight Zone, I'm not going anywhere near this cabin because it is the same cabin that is used from, you know what?
The Hunt.
The Hunt.
Yeah.
And what happened in The Hunt?
Well,
the guy was dead.
The guy was dead. That's right. Yeah.
So,
it was a curse.
So I am staying. And if that's true, then why is there 2 different reverends? Is it the same cabin? Is it the same town? Is it the same 5th dimension?
Yeah, I don't know. This might be the same place in the 5th dimension. So we start off again with the funeral of Jeffrey Myrtlebank, and there's 2 little boys who are peeking through the window of the cabin / church, and we see a coffin in the center of the room, and he was pronounced dead, and he was just hours away from a Christian, quote unquote, Christian burial.
Okay, hang on. Jimbo's got a side story here, so
Okay.
you might want to.
You going to tell your story?
I'm going to tell this story. Are you ready?
All right, I'm ready.
So my great grandpa died, right? And being a young lad that I was, curious.
Right.
Me and my uncle, we were wandering around the funeral home, if you will, and we went into this back room. And
wait, hold on.
Hey,
why would you be wandering around?
We were just looking.
Funeral?
We were just. I can't remember. My cousin was with me too. I don't remember. Yeah,
Okay.
it was just they had all like these caskets up in the air that you could look at, and I guess it's where they take you to shop around, right?
You were looking to buy one?
Well, what was really weird was there was like 3 of them like on the ground, and so I'm going around looking at this one I thought it was a dummy in it, right? So I'm looking around and I went over to this casket and they had like a parchment paper over this guy's face. And I lifted it up. I'm like, man, that looks pretty real. And by that time, the funeral director comes in and he goes, what are you doing? I said, we were just looking around, and I said, that's pretty good. That's pretty good dummy you got there. He said, that's not a dummy. He said, that's Mr. Johnson. He's getting ready to be wheeled over here to room 2 or whatever. And I was like, after that, dude, I just went into the area, just sat down, and I didn't say a word the rest of the day. I was
that's probably for the best.
Yeah. So that's my little experience. So no ill effects toward the guy I saw. I just didn't know. Curiosity killed the cat.
Was he old, middle-aged? Do you remember?
Yeah, he was about middle-aged. I mean... it's really weird.
So he had like a napkin over his head.
It's not a napkin. It's like parchment. Like they put parchments. Like when they do I guess when they do the makeup and everything, they keep it straight, Oh, never forget it though.
No.
So all right, back to the episode. But I just
told that story before.
I think I did maybe on one of the episodes, but I don't know about the Twilight Zone. So
okay, yeah. Wow, that will certainly leave an impression.
Well, I was going to ask you, have you ever done anything adventurous like that?
I don't think so. Not in a funeral home. I have done things adventurous
in a graveyard.
They're unsettling places, right? You're in a dead bodies.
Do you like to go to a graveyard and just walk around?
No,
and look at like old tombstones.
I mean, I have. I guess as long as it's during the daytime, sure.
You wouldn't do it at night?
Well, I mean.
Are you chicken?
I guess.
We'll do a live Tragedy of Cinema podcast from Crown Hill Cemetery. We can sell tickets.
Yeah. Well, these two boys, they were not unlike you.
We'll call them Jimbo and Eric.
They ran away quickly when they saw Mr. Jeffrey Myrtlebank sit up from his coffin. But before that, the preacher is giving his eulogy as such. And he is quoted as saying, "Brothers and sisters, we are congregated here to pay homage to our dear brother, Jefferson Myrtlebank. We all know that Jeff Myrtlebank was a good boy. He didn't always show up to Sunday school on Sunday, but we never saw him at the bootleggers on Saturday night either." Yeah. I thought that was a good line. So the coffin lid raises and Jeff sits up to utter shock to all of those in attendance. It's just mad mayhem.
What would you do?
I don't know. That would.
I mean, especially if it's like, let's say, we've all lost loved ones. Like, let's say your grandma or grandpa, whichever. And would you be so scared that you wouldn't talk to him? Like, this guy gets shunned when he comes out. They're all scared of him,
right?
Or would you be like, "You're alive"? I
don't know. Sometimes
it happens. People have been put in caskets and stuff.
We're going to talk about that.
Pop out.
Yeah, we're going to talk about an ancient. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. But to answer your original question, how would I feel? I don't know. Like, there's always that in the back of your mind when you go to a funeral, like that could potentially happen.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm sure that's where the idea derived from. And let me give credit to I don't think I even have it on here. I don't remember the man's last name, but the original, I think I might have it in my notes. The original writer of this, Rod bought the story off a guy. His first name is Damon, and I might have his last name in the notes. But I'm sure that was something maybe that was, a seed in his mind. Like everybody just thinks, what would happen if they sat up in the coffin when you go to a funeral? Sometimes you think about that.
It's even that those people that would be buried would have the bell attached to their grave.
I'm gonna get to that.
You know what I mean? That
Hang
they would
on to that. I'm gonna get to that.
Man, I'm all over the place. I don't even have notes.
Yeah. So Jeff, again, he sets up, and the church goes into complete mayhem. Right? The men gasp, the women scream, everyone runs to the back to the church, and they run outside onto the lawn. Right? And then this is where we get our whip pan to Rod Serling, and he gives us our wonderful monologue, and he is sitting, or is he standing, sitting? Leaning on a Ford Model T, right? The original Model T
so
Ford.
Awesome.
And I didn't find any trivia about where they, drive the cars, or, maybe I don't know how they got a hold of them, but.
Do you think this was one that was reused from what's the one where the electronics took over and ran over the guy or something? I don't remember the car in that one, but do you think this Model T had been in any other ones?
I don't know, but it's exactly set for the time that it's in, right? The setting in air is in the early 1900s, 1920s. So, and it's got later in the episode, we see Jeff Crank starting it, right? So it's pretty cool to see that. So this all happens in Act 1, right? And then Jeff and his family are apprehensive. His girl, we meet his fiance, Comfort. They're all scared of him, and he comments something to the effect of, like, I'm sure glad you guys didn't embalm me, because he's making the claim like I was never dead. Like, I'm not dead. I don't know why you guys thought I was dead. I feel fine.
Let me ask you a question. Did they ever say, I know the doctor tells some stuff later on, but did they ever actually say what he died from?
I think it was the flu. I think
Okay.
The doc, what was the doc's name? Doc Bolton.
Yeah.
I got my notes out of order here. He's he says that he's had the worst case of flu that he's ever seen, right? And later in the episode, he even says he gave him the pen test because he's well, we'll get to that here in a second. So Jeff, going back to Jeff, he staggers out onto the porch, and this is a Roscoe P. Coltrane line if I've ever heard it. He says, "Who in tarnation put me in that coffin?" It sounded just like Roscoe.
He plays this part so well,
Yeah.
the southern accent.
Yeah, he does. So, he doesn't, again, just reiterating, he doesn't understand why people thought he was dead, and, he's hungry now, and he feels fine. So here's my question to you. This is the part that I wanted to get to. Have you ever thought about what it would be like to be buried alive? Because that's what they were about to do to Jeff before he sat up. And that goes into all of the ancient practices of, attaching a string that was on a bell, right, to those people who were buried.
Well, I mean, you hear about like serial killers or murderers that do that to people, and just and sometimes they get rescued. You know what I mean?
Like suspending them between life and death.
Yeah, and can you imagine though? Just being in that little cramped space under 6 feet of dirt, dark, probably shallow breathing, running out of oxygen. It's not for me, dude.
Yeah, I'm super claustrophobic. Yeah, so again, I looked this up, and I always thought it was an ancient Chinese tradition, the bells and everything to notify the gravedigger that.
I thought it was in England or Britain or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure because I looked it up a while ago and I can't remember, but I remember learning about that tradition. But it was, as I, researched a little bit about that, I found out that widespread embalming didn't really start until around the time of the Civil War, which would have been probably like 50 years from the setting of this particular episode, 50 to 70 years.
And that's crazy too, because like if you look at some of the Egyptian mummies,
right,
they are so well preserved.
Notwithstanding, the Egyptian mummies, that would be one of the first forms of embalming for thousands.
And it's probably still better than today's.
It possibly could be, but back to the Civil War, they did it so that the Department of Transportation could ship fallen soldiers' bodies to other parts of the country, and they wanted it to be preserved. So the widespread of embalming, the practice of that began around the time of the Civil War. But Doc Bolton says of Jeff's condition, he says he didn't have a pulse, and Jeff replies, "Well, I'm sure glad you didn't embalm me." And I thought that was an interesting line that kind of went along with that trivia point. So here, the townspeople they're afraid of Jeff. We talked about that a little bit. And Doc Bolton, he has an explanation of what happens because they're about to turn on him. Like, eventually Jeff's parents are like, "Hey, where are you about to bury this guy when he wasn't dead?" And they kind of shift the blame. And so Doc Bolton comes up with an explanation. He calls it ipso suspendo animation. Right?
I said, that? Wow. Yeah, I was like, I don't remember.
He says it's very rare. He said there's only been 30 cases in the past 1,500 years, and none of them happened in America.
You think he was making that up, or do you think?
Of course. He's trying to save his own hide because he doesn't want to get
sued.
Yeah, or worse.
Yeah.
So from that point, we have a scene shift. We go to the Myrtlebank's kitchen, and it's about 2 weeks later. And Jeff, he's expressed a strong desire to work hard, and his eating habits have changed. So here we're starting to get a little inkling of like something might be different with him. That's the question that looms heavy over the whole episode. Is this really Jeff, or is this someone else? And the conspiracy theories and the rumors and the gossip begin to increase, right? So the townspeople, they begin to gossip, and then we have a scene here. I thought this was funny, where there's I don't know if it's this little kid's grandma or somebody who's on an old style telephone, and she tells him, "You want a mouthful of black pepper
for 10 minutes?" And I'm like,
yeah,
man. So Eric brings me to a question. Did you ever get the old bar of soap or anything in your mouth?
Soap. I had that question for you too. Did you ever get black pepper or anything like that?
I think I got the soap one time.
Soap? Well, that's bad enough. I don't think I ever got soap. No, I don't think so. But pepper or soap gotta be terrible. So again, the rumors are flying, and then the next scene change, we end up down at the general store. And all the fellows are sitting around.
Gossiping.
Yeah. And the consensus is that an evil spirit has possessed the dead body of Jeff, causing the reanimation, right? You know, when a body is freshly dead, the spirits, well, one guy says, well, my grandma used to tell me that the spirit would come in and swoop up that body or something like that. And so that's kind of the general consensus at that point in the general store. And Doc Bolton, again, is defending himself like, I would never bury a man who was still alive. I gave him the pen test.
He said, I even put up a mirror to his mouth to check and see if I see fog up the mirror or whatever.
Yeah. And, no movement, nothing. So that kind of wraps up Act 2, the general store. I think we go to a commercial, and then we come back for Act 3 in the Gatewood Parlor, which is like the front room of the Gatewood household where Jeff's fiance living, and we meet this Orgrim. Now, who is Orgrim? Is that? Did you think that's her brother? He's too young to be her dad. I think possibly. I think it's her brother because he says he's been whooping on Jeff since they were 3 years old. So I'm assuming they're around the same age. But so Orgrim appears to have bought into all the gossip, right? Because he quips early in the conversation with Comfort that he says, "I bet all your kids are born with horns."
Yeah.
So there's like a devilish, demonic aspect to this, I guess, that's injected kind of into the episode. So a few strange occurrences happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's like, I don't know if you call that lore or whatever. So the wilting away of the freshly plucked roses that Jeff, he
she's
gives
like,
to
he's
Comfort.
like, I don't know. He said, they must just wilt really quickly, die really quickly.
Right.
And she's like, well, when did you pick them? He said, well, right, basically 10 minutes before I came over here.
Right.
Like, hey, don't go that fast, buddy.
The second one is Jeff besting Orgrim in a fight, which has never happened up to this point. Something that he was never able to do, which kind of lends credence to the rumors that are going around that this is not really Jeff, that has come back. So when the town folks decide to take action, Comfort races out to warn him, and we're nearing the end of the episode now, because she loves Jeff, right? She wants to protect him. So a huge mob gathers and asks Jeff to leave for other parts of the country. And then Comfort turns a deaf ear to the mob and stands behind her man. Stand by your man, right?
Stand by your man.
So Jeff insists that they're all mistaken, but he kind of uses fear as a motive for his argument. And he tells them that he's going to stay and he's not leaving. And since they insist that they're evil, that he's some sort of evil spirit of sorts, that he threatens to dry all of their wells, kill their crops, and burn down their barns.
I know. I was like,
he's like,
play the part.
If you're wrong, then I'm just a poor old country boy. I'm not a harm to anybody. I can't remember the exact line. So this, the members are scared of the mob. The scared members of the mob, they agree to leave things as they are, and they drive back to town, promising not to bother the two lovebirds again. And then after the mob is gone, something else interesting happens. Jeff lights a match without striking it and smokes his pipe. So was that 2 or 3 things that kind of throw you off? So
is he or isn't he?
Right. So Jimbo, anything that you wanted to cover sticks out that we didn't cover?
Well, I'm going to throw this a little bit of trivia in here. I guess James Best, he wasn't claustrophobic, he said, but when he was in the casket, he said he left a pencil in the lid. So he said, just so he could get cooled down a little bit.
Yeah,
that's too sweltering in there for him or something.
Right.
I mean, you'd have to put a lot more than a pencil in there for me.
If you notice clearly, and this may be my trivia too, but there are like holes drilled into the side of the casket when the opening scenes, if you look really closely, you can see them. So nothing else. Let's jump into some trivia while we're talking about it. So, one trivia point, a mailbox by the side of the street reads M. Pittman, and it pays homage to the director and writer of this episode. That's where the little girl comes out to talk about with the boys. And,
Can I shoot?
Yeah. That boy
He throws here's your bullet, or throws a frog at her.
So this particular episode, as we've mentioned earlier, takes place in the 1920s. According to Doc Bolton, Jeff Myrtlebank died from influenza. The 1918 through 1920 Spanish flu outbreak killed nearly 50, well, this is a wide range, but it says 50 to 100 million people worldwide, which would have been 3 to 5% of the world's population. So we learned all about this during COVID in 2020. So it was a mass pandemic during the 1920s. It says throughout the 1920s, outbreaks of influenza continued to kill thousands of people across America each year. So death from influenza would have been something both feared and not unusual. So Sherry Jackson, who plays Comfort, was the stepdaughter of the episode's director, Montgomery Pittman. Pittman had previously directed the episode 2, if you remember, early in season 3, and Jimbo's shaking his head like he really didn't appreciate that one. And he had wanted Jackson to play the female soldier in that episode. She was deemed to be too young for the role, and it eventually went to Elizabeth Montgomery, of course. James Houghton, who was credited as Jim Houghton in this episode, also played the character Jerry. Now, I could not figure out who Jerry was in this episode. I don't know if he was one of the townspeople. I'm not quite sure. But it's interesting to note that he was the son of the producer Buck Houghton. And
I was going to ask that.
I think you went on, you talked about he wrote for, what was it? Some soap opera.
Guiding Light and, no, Young and the Restless and Knots Landing.
So he must have been a writer as well, but I cannot pick out the character Jerry in this episode, but he was in this episode. The song that the organist played was entitled Abide With Me. It was a 19th century hymn composed by Henry Francis Lyte. It was commonly used in Protestant Christian funerals. The structure used as the exterior for the country church in the opening scene, we already talked about this, is the same that serves as the shack where the elderly Simpson couple dwells in the episode The Hunt. It was also earlier in the season, albeit with the front entrance and awning changed and a small steeple added. If you look closely, there's a steeple added to the cabin. According to James Best, and Jimbo talked about this already, the casket was never fully closed when he was lying inside waiting for the resurrection scene. I'm not known to being claustrophobic, but when they closed that lid, I stuck a pencil or something small under the lid and told them to leave it there. I didn't get scared laying in there, but that pencil did keep the box from getting a bit stuffy.
Can you imagine doing like 30 takes of being just having to lay in that box?
That would be miserable, wouldn't it? And so a couple of goofs. Actually, 2 goofs for this episode. And I already actually mentioned this. There are 6 air holes drilled at the head of Jeff Myrtlebank's coffin, if you look closely. And this one's a little harder to catch, but in essence, well, I'll just go ahead and read it. When Jeff's fiancee Comfort comes to warn him about the angry group of men coming to threaten him, the line in the script was, I wrote out to warn you that there's a group of men coming out from town. They're going to ask you to move out of the county. But Sherry Jackson kept saying over and over, they're going to ask you to move out of the country. I guess she just could not get, she had a mental block and kept saying, they're going to ask you to move out of the country. And she had to keep doing it over and over and over. So she was having a little trouble saying the line. But apparently the line was left in by Montgomery Pittman. The mistaken word was actually included in the final cut. I guess they just got tired of doing it over and over, and he just left it in. So that concludes the trivia and goofs section here. Let's talk about questions and observations and overall takes, feelings, ratings. Jimbo, I'll let you start.
All right. First thing, James Best, he's just a born hillbilly.
Of course, he's from Kentucky.
He did a really great job in this episode. Comfort, she's just so cute. She's just she plays the part very well. A little humbled. But Eric, here's where my thought process went. Is he dead? Because you know what? There's something about comfort in death. Did you not see the play on the words there? Her name's Comfort.
Yeah. Okay.
So I thought that was very interesting.
Okay.
I didn't know if you'd ever thought about that.
No, I didn't, but that is an odd name.
And the
Comfort.
other and the last names of what the one people are the Gatewoods.
Okay.
So
there's some symbolic.
I think there is some symbolic. You can easily draw conclusions from this. I didn't hate this episode, but then again, I didn't think it was great. I think it's going to run right around a 7 for me, 7.5.
Okay.
Kind of like average, a little bit above average than some of the stuff we've seen recently in these episodes.
Okay.
But yeah, that's my thoughts and feelings on
Okay,
it.
so let's circle back to that. Is this a dream? Is he really dead, but he's really living his life? I mean, is this ipso suspendo? Like, what are we talking? I mean, that's the whole point of the episode, right? We really don't know. It leaves the audience guessing.
It's almost like he's death himself.
Oh,
because he kills the flowers.
Lights the match.
He lights the match.
Beats up Orgrim.
If you notice, he's wearing dark clothing when he gets out of the casket too. If I remember, I know, but I mean,
black suits.
Are you gonna be buried in black suit?
Yeah, why not?
I'll be buried naked, so everybody can kiss my butt. Kidding.
Well,
Eric's done up.
Just
be
make
buried.
sure
Be buried face
you
down.
have clothes on when I'm at the wake. Okay.
But here's something else. The title of this was The Last Rites of Jeff Myrtlebank, right? Which would lend to think that was Catholic.
Or he's still
Catholic.
Alive.
Well, but it would also
You give your last rites right before you're about to go, right?
Well, if you're Catholic, right? Is it Catholicism?
Yes. Yeah, that's
because like, you haven't read him in his last rites,
right? Okay.
So you're doing that. You don't see any sign of that here. You see, it's almost like a Protestant funeral.
Well, it was a Protestant, right? The hymn that was played,
right?
We talked about that.
But when you say the last rite, it's kind of threw me off.
Okay.
So that's just a little, I guess,
sidebar
pet peeve for me.
Okay.
So
I see what you're saying. That didn't mesh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right, I got a couple of questions and a few observations. I'll hurl them at you. Why are the townspeople so quick to fear Jeff after he comes back? Some commentaries, now you can go really far with this if you want to. You can go really far with this. Some commentaries have suggested that this episode has a prejudice or racial component to it, which I really didn't pick up on at all. But if you really dig deep, I guess there are commentaries that state that, which wouldn't be completely out of the realm of possibilities, considering the episodes like The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street and others, where, I mean, that was a consistent theme, right, with Rod, prejudice and racial overtones and so forth. Even though Rod didn't write this particular episode, he bought it off of someone else. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. And the next question I had is Jeff different? Is he truly different after returning to the people, or is it the people's perception of him that has changed? That's one thing to consider too.
Yeah, but you got to remember, even his mom and dad, his mom and dad were like,
we're hesitant. Yeah.
He's actually got up and went to work all this time, and his dad was worried about the next Montgomery Ward catalog coming in the mail. He's like, I hope it's in the mail today.
Yeah,
But so that to me that shows that they were kind of lazy in of themselves. And then I think it's one of the town folks. He tells them, he says, he talked to me for like 20 straight minutes or something. He said he's never talked to me that or something like along those lines. I don't remember.
Right. He's never been one to really hustle after work.
Right.
And yeah.
So I think it's him that changed, but it's also the perspective of the people changed.
Right. If you almost died and you come back, like it's gonna change you.
Well, let's think about it. Does any of these town people actually even care for this guy?
Oh, you mean beforehand?
Beforehand.
Well, they said a lot of nice things, but it's a funeral.
Right.
That's not necessarily
right. But I mean, all those people, all those men that were sitting in that general store just throwing gossip around.
Yeah. Well, all right. Let's one more question and two observations. How did Jeff's calm and rational behavior contrast with the town's paranoia? That's very apparent, right? Mm-hmm. He seems to be completely fine with himself, and he doesn't have any problems or you contrast with that the paranoia of the people surrounding him. So that was one thing that kind of stuck out.
Well, you know what else I get from this? Do you ever been in a situation or seen a situation where somebody accuses you of doing something or being something, you know what I mean, and they're harping on you, and then you're
and then
finally
you just
like,
become that
fine,
person. Yeah.
You want me to be that? This is what I'm going to be. And I think that might be a little bit of that.
That's what I think happened at the end of the episode. He was like, "Look, you guys think I'm this? Fine.
Then I'm going to become
then you
this.
You better be very afraid of what I can do if this is who you think I am." Yeah. So the tone shift was one observation that I made. This kind of episode balances between the eerie and the humorous, right? You don't know, because it's very eerie because it's dealing with death, but it almost has some comedic overtones to it. So that was kind of an interesting thing, a tone shift. And then Jeff, again, this goes back to the character of Jeff, is both kind and menacing. You don't really know where you land with him, and that may be the case of what we just talked about. You know, these townspeople are harping on him. They're coming down on him, and they think he's a certain way. And he's just finally like, all right, well, I'm going to leave you guys in suspense. You don't know who I am, so I'm just going to be that person, and you're going to have to look over your shoulder.
If you were Comfort, would you have stayed with him after all this?
I don't know, but I'm glad for Jeff, because
right,
Comfort's a little cutie, right?
Right.
So he's going to. Hopefully, well, the tagline at the end, right? Rod says that they have a child, and he goes on. He's a politician, right? And he's very shrewd or something like that. And again, I'll stick that in at the end of the episode. And then finally, one last observation, that this is just classic scene of mystery in the Twilight Zone. We never really know, is Jeff human or something else. I have my own theory. I think it might have just been swoon theory. What is it? Is it called swoon theory, where a person is near death and it, he was just, I don't know, unconscious or something, and then he really wasn't dead. But I don't know. You don't really know the episode. That's what's great about the Twilight
powers
Zone.
From Eric.
Right?
Can you light a match?
Right. So
unless Comfort,
it might be right. It's something outside of himself. Right. It's supernatural, if you will. But it's interesting that it's a fun episode. If I'm going to rate it, I think it's a little higher than 7.1. I would put it about where you're at. I think we're in agreement on this. It's probably like a mid-7s. It's not terrible, but it's not a top tier.
Mark this down, folks. This doesn't happen very often.
Right. So, it landed pretty good. So, yeah, that's kind of where I leave it. I would watch it again. I watched, it's fine. I like the fact that it leaves you with the mysterious ending, and then it leaves the audience
up to interpretation.
Exactly. That's what I like about those type of episodes. You decide for yourself. Is he really dead? Did he die? Did he come back? Was he never dead in the first place? You can go, is it a dream?
Doctor's mistake.
Is it ipso suspendo? We don't know. It leaves it wide open.
Well, if you like this episode, wait till next week when we record one of the all-time classic episodes of the Twilight Zone, and that is To Serve Man.
That's right.
So stay tuned for that. So, Eric, any final thoughts?
We hope to serve you as we deliver to serve man.
Oh, boy. It's going to be a long episode.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, I think this episode's coming to a close, and that's a wrap.
And cut.
Jeff and Comfort are still alive today, and their only son is a United States Senator. He's noted as an uncommonly shrewd politician, and some believe he must have gotten his education in the Twilight Zone.